Mikey here, Whiskey Delta Zero Oscar Mike. This is going to be a little bit of another excuse video, a little bit, but only a little bit, because it's also going to be a tribute video. The reason I don't have anything more substantial this week is not because I haven't been doing stuff and not because I haven't been recording stuff, but because I haven't gotten around to editing stuff. The reason I haven't gotten around to editing stuff is that my whole week has been kind of knocked sideways. And it got knocked sideways because an old friend of mine passed away this week, a little bit suddenly. He went in for a risky surgery. There was always a chance he wasn't coming out of it, and he didn't, is the long story short of it. But the reason it's relevant here is that the friend in question was also the first adult I ever knew was a ham. He actually introduced me to the hobby long before I decided I was going to join the hobby. His name was Richard Kinne, or Doc Kinne. He was N2IKR when I met him, and then he moved to Boston, and he felt very strongly about regional call signs, so he became KE1ML. And he remained an active ham at traffic handler and relay station for, as far as I know, right up until the week he died. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about him and pay tribute to him, even though most of you probably don't know who I'm talking about, because he was important to me, and he was important to a lot of other people who are now hurting. And he is, like I said, one of the reasons I'm in this hobby, but also the fact that he passed this week has basically meant that I'm taking time for other things and not necessarily focusing on, like, video editing. Among other things, when he learned that I had tested for my license, it turned out he started stalking the FCC website because it's public records. So the day I actually got licensed, before I had had a chance to announce it, he called me. He was actually the first person to call me by my call sign. He called me on the phone and addressed me by the call sign. And it's only because I had actually looked myself earlier that day and seen that I'd gotten it that I even knew what he was talking about. I was like, wait, what? Doc was just this really open, generous person with his time, with his opinions, with the things he enjoyed. He was a gamer. He was particularly into things like EVE Online, which EVE Online is a game I always wished I could be into, and I've tried several times, and it's never been my thing. But I understood why it was his. He was the first person, as I said, who I knew was a ham. He had the license plate. He talked about it all the time. It was an integral part of his identity. And honestly, if it hadn't been for the code requirement, he might have actually gotten me at the time to sign up to get a license, even back in when I met him in the early 90s. That Morse code requirement was a sticking point for me at the time. And it's ironic that I am now learning Morse code. And so silly me, I got this far into the video and I realized I hadn't even mentioned how we met. We met because I and my friend Mark were founding a Star Trek club in Ithaca, New York. Because yes, I am that nerd. And he and his partner at the time came to a meeting, came to join us, and they became integral parts of it. So that was another thing we had in common. That was actually one of the first things we actually had in common, because of course ham radio is something I've come to recently. But we were both Star Trek fans, science fiction fans in general. We actually both shared a fascination with constructed languages. He and I shared particularly an interest in Esperanto, which sadly I have fallen out of. Honestly, I was never actually as good at it as he was. I never practiced it as much as he does. Like any other language, you got to practice it. That's also actually one of my sticking points with Morse code, but I'm keeping at it. We had this whole pile of common interests. When Babylon 5 came out, we both dove headlong into that fandom. And in fact, for a while, my wife and I and our roommate would drive up to his apartment because his cable company got Boston channels, and Babylon 5 was being syndicated, and it wasn't all syndicated on the same day at the same time, and they got it like early in the week, whereas Ithaca got it late in the week. So we'd go up and we'd actually tape it off their cable and we'd watch it with them. And that was a weekly ritual for the last 3 seasons of the show, I think. Certainly the third and fourth season. So my point is, this is a person who I continued to have a lot in common with even after I moved away from Ithaca, and then he moved away. He moved actually to Boston. And the really sad part is I had not seen him in person. I don't think I'd seen him in person since he moved to Boston. And that is kind of on me. I had the resources, I had the time, and I never went there. He did not necessarily have the resources. It wasn't as easy for him to travel. So I don't blame him for not coming here. I had the ability to go there, and I didn't. And no, I'm not here to beat myself up over it, but I am here to make it a reminder to myself, to you if you're actually watching, if anybody's actually watching this. And one of the things, you know how sometimes someone you care about passes away, and you're actually a little bit mad at them for going away, for not being there anymore. Of course, what it really is, at least what I find it is I'm mad at myself, because now there are things I always thought I would have time to do, and now I don't. Not with him. We never actually got around to making a QSO, a contact, on HF. We just never scheduled one, and he was never on by accident when I was activating. In particular, now that I am learning CW, I would really like to have made a QSO with him, CW, and now I can't, because he's not there anymore. So this is a tribute to my friend. It is a reminder to you and to myself to try to make time for people, because you might not always have the time for those people. They may not be there. And it's an apology for not having a more complete video when this channel is so new for you. I have 2 activations now. One that I recorded a lot for. I recorded like 4 hours of footage, and so that's going to require a lot of editing. It includes an FT8 portion and a voice portion. I may split them out into 2 videos, so stay tuned for that. There are people who put out full unedited activations, and I even watch them and listen to them, but I don't think I'm prepared to offer that yet when I'm still so new at creating these videos. But I want to give people a sense of the flavor of an activation for me, what it's like for me. So if you're new, if you've never done it before, if you're new to radio in general, if you're new to POTA in general, or maybe you aren't new and you just want to see how someone else does it. That's why I recorded it and I want to show it to you. But it does need some editing first, and I haven't had time for that. The other thing I've been doing, as I've mentioned, I think I mentioned last week, is I've been building a radio, and I'm kind of stuck on it right now. It's not quite working. It boots up. I get power. That's cool. I get into its debugging app, because the QMX Plus firmware has got a great debugging app, and then it tells me things are wrong, and I haven't figured out what's wrong yet, but I'm working on it. So been a little busy, been a little distracted, and been emotionally distracted by the passing of my friend Doc Kinne. So that's my story. I will be putting videos up. If you have already subscribed, thank you for being here. If you want to go watch my other videos and then you like them, please like them and subscribe to the channel. And we will see where it takes us in the future. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me in 73.